Samsung's not content to just be a market leader when it comes to smartphones, and the manufacturer would love it if you bought into its whole mobile ecosystem of products, including things like smartwatches, fitness trackers, panoramic cameras, Bluetooth earbuds, and even virtual reality headsets. For the past couple years now, Samsung's been refining its design, and after a couple early innovator editions, last fall launched the commercial Gear VR. But this is 2016 now, and Samsung's beginning to transition its smartphones to the new USB Type-C interface. That means the new Galaxy Note 7 won't play nicely with last year's Gear VR. And rather than releasing some sort of cumbersome adapter, Samsung's elected to just fully upgrade the Gear VR, improving field of view and comfort in the process. I'm Stephen Shank with PhoneArena, bringing you a review of the new 2016 Samsung Gear VR. Samsung's latest Gear VR headset reflects a manufacturer that's been taking its time to refine a product's design. VR headsets in general aren't exactly products the majority of consumers have a lot of familiarity with, and it makes sense that Samsung's investing a lot of effort in getting the user experience as comfortable and polished as it can be. After two Gear VR Innovator Editions, we got last year's commercial Gear VR, supporting the Note 5, Galaxy S6, S6 Edge, S6 Edge Plus, and this year's Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge. The new Gear VR supports all the same phones as last year's headset, while adding support for the new Galaxy Note 7 and its USB Type-C interface. The headset itself largely looks like last year's model, while shifting its color palette from black and white to black and dark blue, and it's a pretty attractive change. Samsung's updated the padding bordering the headset's eyepieces, and by lengthening the straps used to secure the Gear VR to users' heads, the new unit should more comfortably accommodate a variety of head sizes. The whole thing, even with a big phone like the Note 7 locked in place, is comfortably lightweight, and once adjusted, the straps hold the Gear VR snugly in place. Our only complaint is that no matter how much we adjusted the fit, there always seemed to be a little nose pinching going on, with just enough pressure on our nose to make us feel like we were congested. Unfortunately, the nose padding isn't adjustable independently of the rest of the eyepiece, so we just had to live with it. Samsung updates the controls on the new Gear VR with a flat touchpad, ditching the crossed groove of last year's model, while also adding a new hardware button to jump back to the Oculus Home launcher. The new touchpad largely works well, though we occasionally ran into spots where it momentarily stopped responding to our touch. The extra home button is a nice addition, helping to keep users embedded in the VR experience even as they jump in and out of individual apps. Last year's Gear VR used a sliding USB port to help support multiple phone screen sizes. That same mechanic is back for this model, but the USB connector itself is now modular. If you're picking up the Gear VR with a Note 7, you can leave the USB Type-C interface in place. But if you've got an older Galaxy flagship, converting the Gear VR for use with your phone is as easy as sliding out the USB Type-C adapter and inserting the included micro USB adapter. Those USB Type-C upgrades continue around on the Gear VR's bottom side, where its auxiliary USB port evolves from micro USB to USB Type-C. You can use this port to make sure your phone's got enough power for extended Gear VR gaming sessions, and while the port itself isn't modular like the phone interface, Samsung includes a micro USB adapter so you can use one of your existing micro USB power cables. Finally, Samsung's Gear VR hardware updates conclude with an expanded field of view for the headset's lenses, helping to improve immersion by widening your view from 96 degrees to 101 degrees. Once you've got the Gear VR software installed and you've set up an Oculus account, diving into virtual worlds is as easy as popping your Galaxy phone into the Gear VR headset. It automatically pulls up the Oculus Home launcher and, using the Gear VR's proximity sensor, waits for you to slip the headset on to get things started. The interface uses a combination of look to point and swiping on the touchpad to scroll, with touchpad taps your primary form of confirming inputs. Since last year, the amount of available VR content has really taken off, both in the form of interactive apps and games, and pre-recorded 360-degree videos, both of the 3D and non-3D variety. Games, on average, are slightly pricier than your average Play Store app, and be prepared to pay up for titles again even if you already bought non-Gear VR Android editions. We're looking at you, Minecraft. A lot of this content can be fully enjoyed with just a Gear VR, compatible Galaxy headset, and a pair of headphones. But if you want to access every game, you're also going to want to add a handheld controller into the mix, an added expense to consider when making your Gear VR purchasing decision. When viewed on a Quad HD display, the Gear VR's graphics can be pretty darn impressive. You'll still see individual pixels, there's little to be done about that short of moving to 4K, but you'll quickly find yourself forgetting about them, to a large extent, as you become more immersed in the Gear VR's 3D experience. Samsung and Oculus come so close to nailing things here, but even with the power of the Snapdragon 820 powered Galaxy Note 7 strapped into it, we found a number of Gear VR titles struggling to maintain consistently smooth frame rates. 3D rendered games would occasionally glitch out on us with graphical errors, and both rendered content and viewing pre-recorded videos were subject to intermittent skipping and stuttering. Like being able to see the individual pixels themselves, it's something you may be able to look past, but it does contribute to making it that much harder to suspend disbelief of the virtual world. To be fair, none of these problems are any worse now than they were with last year's Gear VR, and we definitely appreciate the input and field of view improvements. And the performance and display issues are tied to the phone you're using with the Gear VR, they're not inherent to the headset itself. But since using the Gear VR requires pairing it with one of Samsung's phones, it's difficult to evaluate the headset without looking at this total hardware and software equation. Samsung's new Gear VR is an indisputable improvement over last year's model, but it's also not such a huge step forward that you should necessarily feel compelled to upgrade. If you already have the old model, maybe you don't get the new one, at least not just yet. After all, we know Samsung has a habit of giving the Gear VR away as a promo offer, and while it hasn't done that yet with the Note 7, who knows what the Galaxy S8 will bring. We've also got to consider the upcoming arrival of Google Daydream, which threatens to turn on its head Android-based VR as we know it. For these reasons, you might want to hold off on the new Gear VR. But if you want the absolutely best smartphone-based VR experience you can get right now, and you own or are planning to pick up a compatible Galaxy flagship, you're almost certain to have a lot of fun with the new Samsung Gear VR. I'm Stephen Shank with PhoneArena. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to check out even more mobile tech coverage.